And so like how anybody can say anything to this man is like beyond me. Because like they double screwed him, dude.
Well, I thought 2 wrongs make a right. So like,
Kevin, say something.
Not in this case.
Say something.
Everything will be okay.
Solana went down like 90% and then went down like another 90%. So it was like, it's been pretty cool.
What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the ngmi podcast, aka the Web3 Show, aka the future #1 podcast in the world. With me today, I have, as always, my beautiful, sexy, humble co-host and the golden boy of Web3, K-Money_69.
Thank you for that. I feel dead inside, but we're here, so I feel alive, and I'm excited for this conversation.
He's trying to get a flight back right now. I think he just paid like $1,000 for a red eye.
I'm sitting in the middle, all the way in the back.
Exactly, the very back row. But anyway, it's the podcast is named appropriately. And today we have a super, super exciting episode. I think this is probably going to be the most value-packed hour and a half that we've ever had on the show. No offense to any of our previous guests. Both of them are previous guests. And with me today, I have 2 of the most notable, most successful entrepreneurs, project founders, project owners in the entire NFT space. With me today, I have none other than
Gordon
Frank.
Donner.
I have Frank DeGods, and I have Luca Netz. I want to ask both of you how you're doing and just like how Art Basel has been thus far. I'll start with Luca because he's making a funny face and he's the taller one of the 2. So, Luca, how are you, dude? How are you living?
Dude, I'm doing good. I was talking to Lorenzo, but I think like this Art Basel was probably like the most impactful session that I've had with like other people in the space since I've taken over the project. I don't know if like other Art Basels are like this and this is like the norm, but it's like so value packed and so much alpha and so much just like good vibes and great energy. Like if this is what Web3 is about, we're gonna make it.
We met Beeple last night, just like randomly in the middle of a
very inebriated conversation for sure with people. It was really fun.
Yeah. Do you feel like this? Do you feel the same way? Like this, like Art Basel has just been.
I label this as like the down 95% Art Basel. Like it. I went to the same thing last year, and it was just like pure euphoria, and it was it was a lot of people being really hyped. And on this time, you see someone else, especially from the space that you meet, and there's like instant hugs and instant just love from a lot of the builders that we've met over the course of the week, which has been pretty amazing.
Yeah, I kind of wish I would have got to experience a euphoric Art Basel. This one felt like a lot of like just people coping, but I'm into that too. It's there's like beauty and pain, and it looks like a lot of people's bags are down horrendous. But I mean, the people that are here and celebrating, they're probably gonna be here for a while. So it's cool to like connect with those people. Yeah.
I kind of like the cope because it's like less like arrogance. Like I'm the shit because I bought a JPEG and it's worth $500,000 and like I'm like super cool. It just seems like people are like all humble and like. Yeah. It's just a good time.
Well, to be fair, you didn't buy a JPEG; you bought a whole JPEG company.
Yeah,
but so you're in a little bit different situation. Yeah. I don't know. You might be down horrendous, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know the Pudgy financials, but the holders.
Let's get into it now.
Yeah, the holders.
We're pretty good.
The holders seem like they're doing pretty well, man. We went to the Pudgy event the other day, and it didn't feel like a down 95%. You know what I mean? Like Copy experience. Actually, other than I suppose NFT NYC, this has been like by far the biggest event that I've been to. Just as far as like people celebrating and doing shit. Maybe it's because everybody needs to just like fucking let it out. Do you know what I mean? But that was one of the first things I wanted to ask you guys. As far as like you're here running two of the biggest projects in the space, interfacing in real life with people that otherwise like Discord and Twitter. What's sort of like been your feel of the communities thus far? Have you been surprised by anything? Do you know what I mean? Like what's the sort of general community sentiment?
Luca, please take that first.
I don't know. I just feel like the people who really care about the technology and care about what we're doing here are the ones participating. Like it's easy when everybody is like making an abundance of cash and like we're all coming to participate because we're pumping our bags. But here I think you're seeing the most beautiful part about Web3. And I really believe that this is the future of technology. Seeing these people in real life, like I knew this the second I met Frank for the first time on the Zoom. I was like, I'm not going to go into it, but I've talked to so many founders in the space and so many holders just don't know what's like, have no idea what's in store. with like some of the disasters that are like running rampant around there. But when I met him, I thought to myself immediately, I was like, finally somebody that I feel like pushes me and challenges me and that like I really respect. And when I spoke to him for the first time, I was like, yeah, I really like you. And then when we met in person, I'm like, oh yeah, I like you even more, dude.
Yeah, I'll never forget the first call with Luca because I was hitting him up for a pretty specific thing that we were interested in working on, but within like the first 2 minutes of talking, the thing I always told people at the Pudgy party when we went, meeting Fantoshi and all the really cool guys, it was like we were always just raving about Luca and Lorenzo too, who I got to meet here as well. He's right off camera. Got a big cowboy hat on just to create the visual for people listening. And I remember like meeting you both and I was like, dude, it's pretty rare to meet other founders in this space. And this sounds wild to say that just actually care about their holder, like basic shit. It's like, just care about their holders. Like that's the first thing. And that was why I think we hit it off like instantly, was that the first kind of question and conversation we were having was really just about bringing value back to our projects. And I think there's like a lot of virtue signaling in the space of people that are like doing stuff for the ecosystem or like doing things for these like esoteric random reasons that you read on Twitter. And the thing that I think most people have come to respect and what I really respect about, you and why it's been so fun talking is that I think me and you both just really just want to see our projects like do well and our holders to do well. And that's just an awesome environment to be in because that's like where the real stuff is actually happening.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I thought to myself, but when you think about it, like we are in the position to really help and change a lot of lives. Like if we do what we're supposed to do, like if you do your job and I do mine, like, okay, sure, our team and our group, like they'll be impacted, but our holders, dude, like we have the opportunity to distribute like immense value to people in a way that has like never been seen before in like the history of the world.
At that scale, especially.
Yeah,
like,
and at that personal level, like that is the magic, I think, of this whole space. And on the hardest days, I always just remind our team, I'm sure you do something similar, where it's, hey man, like if we actually crush it and we do a great job, we're changing lives. And that is an exciting, thing to commit to for a long period of time. So that's like the most exciting part of the space. And it's not even close. That's what makes the hard days easier.
And I've always been one of those people where I felt like people always like didn't believe in me, and I always like proving it wrong. And it's like one of those things where like your holders believe in you, and like you doing your job and translating that value. It's like not only are you helping them, but it's also like helping you because it's like you're doubling down and solidifying that like believing in you and betting on you and your team and your group. Like that's a good bet to make.
And the deeper I think thing on that is like it's also just such great content and story. Like we're all, to me, it's so much of the space, like we're all just like trying to figure out where is this NFT thing gonna go. And for people that are like holders, right, for Pudgies, for DeGods, for Utes, whatever it is, for Rogs, whatever it is, people get excited when there's a narrative and a story of like, hey, we want to make this thing bigger. This is our idea. Like this is where we're trying to take this thing. And I don't know. I just think there's something really exciting about that. That is a huge part of the value that's provided overall. So yeah, it's really cool.
So like I was really excited when you two got connected because I remember
he was like pushing.
Yeah,
you were
100%.
Yeah,
like,
you
made this
100%.
happen.
Yeah,
Because,
for me, it's like when I met Frank at NFT NYC. I remember like after the Magic Eating Yacht party, like we met up in LA and just talked about. I think we talked about like story and filmmaking for like 4 or 5 hours straight, like one night, and we really hit it off. And then. Like the more I got to know you, the more I got to see like you had this level of like drive and ambition that I've never seen, respectfully, from any other founders in the space. And then I haven't seen that until I got to have like my first conversation with Luca. And so like I was just like, I know I need to connect these two guys together. And so now that you like when you guys did have your first conversation, like what was your initial like what was like the biggest thing that you learned from each other?
So for me, we had an exercise when we first called. We got to know each other for like 30 minutes, went back, what are you doing? What am I doing? But I think at one point in the conversation, it was like, okay, tell me what you're doing. I'll tell you where I think things are going wrong. I'll tell you what I'm doing. You tell me where you think things are going wrong. And for like the first time out of anybody that I've spoken to in this space, I was like, I got off the phone after just hearing his perspective and how he like looked at things. And I was like, whoa. Like I was just impressed. I was like,
I remember I tweeted out like right after the call. I rarely ever do. I tweeted out right after the call. I was like, dude, Luca Netz, my favorite founder in the whole fucking NFT space. Like just off pure euphoria from the vibe. We were supposed to talk for like 10 minutes. Ended up speaking for like an hour and a half. And, yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just remember that was like right after. Like,
no, dude, it was special, and it just like I really try my best to speak to a lot of people, but like this is like the first is like it's the first guy that I met that I was just like absolutely. Like we've been ideating on products for like months, and we'll ideate, try to like think of all the pros and cons on different products that we're trying to ship. And I talk to this dude, I give him an idea for 10 minutes, and he pulls out an angle that like after hundreds of hours of ideating, I wouldn't even have thought about. And I'm just like, finally, and I'm a competitor, right? Yeah. So just knowing that I came into this space because I thought the bar was low. I thought like nobody was really doing shit. And I was like, okay, you can come in and actually do shit and like you can win. And so like meeting him also kind of like really made me just like turn it up. Like, oh, like there's somebody who's really doing it and who's really impressive. And it's like in the most beautiful way possible. It's like Kobe and Jordan. Like I just feel like finally, dude, like I feel like it turned it up. I told you, Lorenzo, I was like, bro, we got to like it's go time now. Cause we've got a dude, same age, same background. Like we usually like stack ourselves against the rest. And it's like, dude, we're out edging these guys in every single way possible. And I meet you, I'm like, finally, like, let's turn it up a little bit.
So for me, I think like my biggest thing, it was a really impactful moment for me after our first call, because it was like the first day where I felt like I wasn't a crazy person, because I think a lot of times with the DeGods and Utes, whatever we've launched, there's like this level of nuance and like layered decision making when it comes to NFTs that is like really hard to communicate oftentimes, especially like even the holders, to Twitter, like to the overall ecosystem, because you have so many different stakeholders and you're trying to make something cool where everybody wins that's in your community, and like you still want it to be big outside of so you're like thinking of an idea and there's like 50 levels of stakeholders. So oftentimes, when we, at least internally at the house, the DeGods HQ, we have like these super deep discussions on 5 different layers on what we're trying to launch. And I remember when I talked to Luca, the first person I talked to externally out of DeGods, where I was like, oh yeah, like that is the right approach. Like you do need to consider all these variables. There are other people that are thinking about it in this way, because I always felt crazy for taking it to that level of like detail and like thinking through how everybody wins and like, is this gonna actually work? Is it not? And that was what was super cool. I felt like, okay, like this is actually the lane that very few people are taking, but that was a very opening of consciousness type of conversation, because it's just different. Like launching something we could go into the details on why, but like launching something for an NFT community is different than any other mechanism of launching something like ever before. And that requires a different framework of thought. There's no books on it. There's there's no experts, there's no mentors. Like it's really just, we're all figuring it out right now. And as we go. So that was what was really cool about that conversation, was not feeling crazy. There is this level of detail that you do need to consider. Yeah.
And it's fucking hard, by the way. Like it is really challenging. And you just said the competitive thing.
Yep.
Right. And I want to talk to you guys about motivation, because like you've run other businesses very successfully, right? Like you don't have to be here. Yep. And Frank, Luca did it in an interview where someone asked him what the motivation was. And first of all, he quoted Drake, which is pretty funny. But I talked about, it's real when you are who you think you are, right? It's like, I want to come into this business because it's like, am I really the entrepreneur that I think I am?
Yeah.
Because building an NFT project is fucking hard. It is really hard. And Frank, I wanted to ask you if you think about it that way, right? Like how much of this for you, obviously you're doing it for the holders. You want to change people's lives, but how much of this for you is competitive and is chess and you wanting to basically show the world, like, look what I did with DeGods. Now I'm going to do it again with Utes. Then we do Dust Labs, right? Like I am him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think when I think about, for sure. I'm like an open book. So I've been, even before I was doxxed, I was very open about our goals. And that's why it's been a pretty smooth transition, because I haven't really like hit anything. So for me, I've been very open that like we want to make, DeGods the biggest NFT project in the world, like bigger than Bored Apes, bigger than everything. I think it's a challenging journey for sure. But part of what makes it really exciting is, there is like an ecosystem that follows it, because coming from like the startup world, right, there is like a level of competition. I'm sure in e-com as well. It's like there's competition, but it's a lot more loose, because like everyone, you know what I mean? It's not like there's no leaderboard of like the top e-com stores. There's no leaderboard. Like there is a leaderboard of startups, but it's like at a different scale. What's cool about this ecosystem is there are people that follow it, you know, in that way, and it is a very, what's cool for people that are competitive is like there are metrics, like there is a scoreboard at the end of the day, and so it's cool to like have metrics that you can hit and like look at as an overall scoreboard and feel a pretty big community that's building content and talking about it all day from that lens. That being said, I think at the end of the day, competition is like, I don't know, I'm curious how you feel about it, Luca. It is like an internal driver, but I think oftentimes people overemphasize what that means or take it in the wrong way. For me, it's like internal, you know, it's exciting to work towards the goal of like trying to make the biggest NFT projects in the world. Like that's an exciting goal for myself, for the team, for the holders, for the community. But it's not something that like, you know, is it's not like, I wouldn't compare my mentality to like Jordan, like fucking reading everything and just being like, oh, fuck you guys. Like, yo, we're going to do it, whatever it is. It's just more like, okay, cool. Like we're not playing like a game that there's no points in. Like there's points and like we can win and we could do better objectively, right? And so when right now today, like everyone that shit on Utes and DeGods, it took all their shots on us for the last few months or whatever. I mean, if you just held your fucking DeGod and you held your tube, today we're sitting at all-time highs. Right? In soul value, fucking USD value. I mean, that's a different thing. We'll get there too. But that is pretty cool to me that the people that continue to believe in us keep winning. And that's honestly what you were saying about like being him. When I really look at it, it's not even about being him. It's more just like if we can keep rewarding the guys, the fucking community that sticks with us through and through, like through every up and down, like that's the win. Because they get clowned on Twitter when DeGods went down really bad and FTX collapsed and all that stuff. Dude, all my fucking guys that have been defending us from day one, all the people on Twitter are finally taking their time to take shots at like our holders for believing in us. And the fact that we could bring it back and continue to bring excitement and continue to build this project bigger and bigger, that's like real sad. That's the real satisfaction is like, yo, our holders don't look like fucking clowns. They look like Chads because they stuck through it. And that makes me feel really good. I would love, you know, for when we become the biggest projects in the world, like, dude, some of these DeGod guys are fucking weirdos, right? Like, we were not like the golden child of Solana. Like, people were very confused at our rise to becoming bigger. But it's like the diehard guys that stuck through it that got to see it like the whole way, you know, ups and downs. And like if those guys win and win big, like that's what makes me really fucking happy. Like that's the best.
Yeah, I love that you said that because one of like my driving motivations is just like anybody who believed in us, like our holder group, the people that like, stood behind like the project and the IP and the Penguin. It's like I cannot wait for that moment where it's just like, yes, we told you so. And every day as we keep pushing forward, that moment becomes more and more prevalent. But like I want that for them, like so bad. Like I toss and turn at night because I want so bad for them to be like, we told you Pudgies were inevitable. Now they're like the top 2, top 3, top 1. You know what I mean? And this is like you faded us. And now these little pudgy penguins, these fat pudgy little things are like the top of the totem pole. You know, like I want that so bad. And you brought up something interesting with the leaderboard. But I agree. I like that point system, and it's not like a malevolent competition, but like it's just like it's important that somebody pushes you consistently, and just having somebody that can like ideate in different ways and have different angles, the way of looking at things. Like we were talking in the car yesterday, driving back, and like something that I wasn't even thinking about, and you said like, "Yo, I think you guys should really do this." And then Lorenzo had a big brain idea, went down the rabbit hole, chain reaction, one thing led to another, and then it's like, yes. Okay, so now we've just solved like 2 problems that we weren't going to solve, and it all sparked through a conversation. There's not many people in the space that you can have that conversation with. But I totally agree in the assumption that, you know, at the end of the day, it's about putting your holders in a position of power where they're just looking back at it and it's like, we believed in the IP, we believed in the brand, we believed in the person, and now look at us. And like, there's nothing I want more for them than that.
And so this is one of my biggest theses on like crypto Twitter overall is that I think embarrassment is more of a driving factor in terms of decision making than pure finance. So like, I think people feel more hurt when they feel like they could have sold the top and everyone is clowning on them than actually like the money that they lost. And a lot of people make really bad decisions or good decisions because that's a huge driving factor. So that's where a lot of my empathy comes from, is like, I realized very early in the process when DeGods was like doing really bad, like when holders are saying, you know, when utility or when's this thing coming out, there's become this culture with founders that I've never really jived with, which is, you know, shit on people that are speculators, or shit on the traders, or shit on the people that are like asking you these pressing questions. Because if you're trying to be an empathetic person and really see what's really happening, is they're not asking you when utility, they're asking you like, hey Frank, you know, when are you gonna do something cool so I don't feel like a fucking bozo for not like selling this thing when it was higher? And when you look at it from that lens, it's really different, and it's not something to antagonize. It's actually something to open up and be like, hey, you know, I know you feel this way right now. We're doing something really cool, and we're working, you know, really hard, and we hear you. And I think that has been a huge thing of like bringing the community together when things are bad, and why we've consistently always come back whenever things go down is, dude, like, don't antagonize people that are asking like, you know, abrasive questions or questions about, especially your holders, about when the next thing is coming, because they're not trying to make you feel bad. They're trying to make themselves feel better about the decisions that they made. So I think that's a huge, like, it's a problem because people take it overboard, but at the same time, like, try to be above that and really see why they're asking the question.
That's a really interesting frame. I actually like that.
It too changed my whole perspective, man. Like early days, I would just be like, fuck these guys in the Discord, like fucking asking me all day, like, when's this thing coming out? When's that thing coming out? But I'm like, okay, you really look at it and it's like they just bought at a higher price and they feel like and their friends are making fun of them and they just feel like fucking morons for believing in this thing. And what they're really asking is like, hey, can you just give me a reason that I can go back to my friends that are clowning on me so I don't look like a fucking dumbass, you know, for believing in this? And that I know, and I'm seeing you guys laughing. It's like, you know, you guys are awesome members of the space, like of the community, and you guys make content, but you talk about projects. I can only imagine it's like, you know, if you're talking about DeGods and the price is down, it's like you're not looking necessarily to fucking make back your gain. You just want to have a reason to explain to people like, hey, like, you know, I know this thing's not at the price that when I talked about it, but this is what they're working on. A clean one-liner that helps you contextualize it and helps everyone contextualize where we're at right now. And I think, yeah, it's just important, like, to realize like there's real people on the other side, and they don't always have bad intentions, especially if they're your holders. They actually probably have good intentions, and they probably want, you know, something that's good for the project. You just have to be a good translator of what that is.
Well, and dude, and like, I was laughing because Kevin always buys things that go down.
Yep. Always.
Wasn't laughing at what you said, and like, also we're content creators, but I mean, I'm also a project founder who is like literally living what you're talking about right now, right? Like we're sitting at like half an ETH from an all-time high of like 2.5, right? And you know, you can say whatever about market conditions, but what you said is true in the NFT space in a way that it isn't really true anywhere else. Because these aren't, you know, like dividend paying company stocks that are based upon earnings reports, right? You're in, or at least like I'm not having shareholder meetings with my holders, and I'm like, well, you did the proof of work thing, which is kind of reconciling this issue, but it's like, you know, the market doesn't always care, the market never cares in real time about really impactful things, because impactful things take a while to build, right? Yep. And I think you have a really special skill of figuring out a way to do cool shit, but live enough in sort of that DGen NFT landscape to figure out how to like properly communicate it at the time. Because it's like, I feel like you almost have to play 2 games. Do you know what I mean? It's like, go ahead.
Yeah, well, there's a problem right now in the NFT space where I think a majority of projects are working on really cool shit, and you're right in the assumption that cool shit takes a long time, right? But just because something takes a long time to do, whether it's like a big product release, doesn't mean that from now until then you do like nothing, right? There's like so much things that you can do in between to like kind of fill those voids and keep the output consistent, because what people want to see is output. Like one thing that at least internally with Pudgy that we were like really keen on is like, there's this phrase I talk about with the team. It's like, we can only be great so long and people not recognize us. Like you can only doubt greatness for so long. So how do we make it undeniable that we're freaking great, that we're the best? And how I measure that is by output. So like the more that we do and the more that we output, whether it's content, whether it's product, whether it's partnerships, whether it's initiatives, whatever it may be, like let's keep output consistent so that when you're stacking us against the rest and you're like asking yourself, okay, which team is producing more output, right? That is pushing the brand forward. And you're measuring it against the competition, that you can unequivocally say like, yo, these guys are outputting more. So what's the better bet, right? Because at the end of the day, like there's a trading mechanic here that you have to factor in. There's a community layer, but like the variables you can control is the output. And I think there's also one other thing that we kind of brought up because we were talking about empathy. You know, on one side, I think a project founder, you have to be empathetic to your holders. Like it's the number one thing. Like at no point in time am I going to be like looking at something or seeing somebody's concern and like not, you know, consciously thinking about like what they're feeling, no matter if I think it's ridiculous or not. Like I have to empathize with them. But on the flip side too, I will tell you this, because I traded NFTs for maybe 8-9 months before we took over Pudgy Penguins. I also encourage holders listening to like empathize with the founder, because I promise you guys, and this is coming from the mouth of somebody who's built multiple 9-figure businesses, like this is the most complex business model that I have ever been a part of, right? Like I think at its core, it's a publicly traded startup, right? Because Frank could go on the camera one day and say something wrong and his floor will tank, right? And that is subject to sentiment. And same thing with me, right? And there's been times where that's happened where I'll say something and then I'll see like, oh man, like shouldn't have said that. And so mental check. So at its core, it's a publicly traded startup, but you have such an emphasis on community. So like your community building, it's a community building masterclass. Then you have product, because I'm a firm believer that you have to create real products in some capacity to touch other people, right? You can't just create digital products that just like live in this ecosystem. So you're building real product. You're building tech, right? In some capacity, it's a tech company. There's smart contracts. At a bare minimum, there's smart contracts, but then you could be like Frank, and you know, I know Lorenzo's working on some of these initiatives like SaaS and like tooling and infrastructure. And then you have marketing and content, like, so you're already at 6 variables, right? And then you have this
community
whole
management, events,
and
then
like,
it never ends.
In real life events. And then I think there's like maybe 10 facets to this business where like typically, you know, in a regular D2C, you would have like community, product, you know, like you'd probably have like 4 or 5. And so you're like taking really, because I'm a firm believer, you have to actually focus. There has to be a Web 2 channel to this. Like I know it sounds like silly, but I'm a firm believer that you actually have to build both a Web 3 and a Web 2 company at the same time. At least that's my thesis, because macro bull and bear conditions are things you can't control. And I think you probably felt this the worst. And I felt it too, though, trust me. But like,
bro.
how messed up is it, right? That this guy gives it his all, right? And then overnight, in a matter of like a couple days, his revenue gets cut 90%. Right? His burn doesn't change. His burn is consistent, right? And then now his revenue gets cut 90% because of variables he can't control. But that's where I think the flaw in the model is from a business perspective, is like you cannot neglect the Web 2 side, because real revenue has to be generated. Like you have to figure out a way to move real products in some capacity, or tooling if it's SaaS, or like a real bit, like a typical standard business model, which I think would fall into the Web 2 ecosystem, because the Web 3 stuff is just too volatile to like forecast and project and to build around, because one thing that Frank does not control cut his revenue 90%. Like, and not only that, he actually got double. You got the worst of it, dude, because they came in and cut your royalties and then the price dipped. So like they double screwed him.
That's a double zero, bro.
It's like, and so like how anybody can say anything to this man is like beyond me. Because like they double screwed him, dude.
Well, I thought 2 wrongs make a right. So like,
Kevin, say something.
Not in this case.
Say something.
Everything will be okay.
Solana went down like 90% and then went down like another 90%. So it was like, you know, it's been pretty cool. But no, I mean, I agree. So let's make it interesting, right? So I agree that Web3 right now, everything being denominated in these like native cryptos creates a real problem when it comes to like operating a business with employees and capital like that you have to allocate monthly burn, etc. But I do think that it's very challenging, like at the same time, to integrate. Like it's just unexplored. Like what does a Web 2 onboard or whatever it is with the crypto assets and like having those go up in value? Like what does that look like? The thing that I think, you know, is hilarious about crypto Twitter, it's actually just fucking hilarious, is like you have all these keyboard guys that think that there's like an answer. They're like, oh, just go get another revenue stream. What are you doing? Oh, you don't have 10 revenue streams? Are you a fuck? I'm like, bro, show me one product. Show me one project that actually has that. And it's like they always point at some random project. It's making like $10 a month. And it's like, dude, it's like, bro.
Hey, don't talk about my...
right now, we're talking about a space where realistically, you know, Yuga Labs has made the most money out of any project. And how have they done that? It's been through royalties. It's been through speculation. It's been through all these things that all the keyboard warriors are like, oh yeah, like dude, this is the real way to build a fucking NFT. It's like, oh, you need the 5 revenue streams, you need this, and it's like you look at all the top projects, and what do? They just were crypto native. You know, they moved a lot of capital in crypto. They went up really high, and like they generated a fuck ton of revenue. And so I think it is finding the bridge of Web 2 and like doing something that's dope in Web 2. But I think it's also like, how do we continue to tap into that capital that is crypto native? And I'm like a big believer that, you know, NFT projects at the end of the day should never forget like their roots. Like I don't think the biggest NFT projects in the world will be something that strictly services people outside of NFTs. Because think about it, right? Like what makes outside institutional capital, and we were talking about this for a while the other day with Spencer and those guys, like what makes outside institutional capital spend a fuck ton of money on NFTs? Well, they just pick the things that the crypto native guys deemed the kings, and they just allocate retarded amounts of capital to that thing. So like when an institutional fund buys a ton of Bored Apes, well, the crypto native community picked Bored Apes first. They pump those things up, and then institutional capital just buys a ton and parks their capital there. So you can never lose the roots of being crypto native, I think, and that's something that is a little bit more controversial for me to say because it's a big narrative of bringing all these new people in. But I also think there's still a lot of people here. There's a lot of capital in the space for fucking JPEGs, you know, at the end of the day. And so like we need to make sure that we build something that's exciting for crypto people and people that are actually just nerds and into this shit that will also bring in new people. It's like you're solving the same problem with 2. And that is nobody's done that, you know, yet. And we're all working on doing variations of this, but people on Twitter that act like that should just be solved. It's like, dude, show me one. Like, you know, like they really don't exist at scale right now.
It's Pudgy Penguins, baby. Give me a couple
No,
months.
and that's why I'm excited about where you guys are going, because you're tackling the gooey center of the real problems.
Yep.
And that's what, you know, that's what gets me excited is like, there's a lot of people, it's a lot easier to build something that's small, that's like proving the model. But like the only proof that really will exist is the people that do it at a big scale. And so that's what excites me about the direction Pudgies are going, because you guys are trying to do something that's more traditional, but you're talking about doing it at a scale with experience in that industry. And that's like what gets me excited.
How do you feel about denominating in stables?
Like, yeah, I love it, man. I can't wait. I think we should all be denominating in USD.
Right.
Especially like because you lose out on the upside. It's a lot easier to just throw around, you know, a few ETH. It doesn't feel, you know, meanwhile, because people aren't undercutting by dollars.
Right.
You know, I mean, on Sol they are. So
Yeah,
I'm used to it. It's like if you're undercutting by 0.1 Sol, you're undercutting by a fucking dollar, you know, and everyone's doing it all day, every day. But I do think it's a reality pill. You know, that's what I like about it. It's just, okay, like this is reality. We're denominating USD. Okay, playing field is leveled. It might take out some of the fuck it spending that we have right now in the market, but like that seems like the natural direction for things to go. So I feel like we should all be denominating probably in USD sooner rather than later. I don't know what the catalyst will be for that move or if it will ever happen, because the upside is juicy. Like, you know,
it would have to be like an open sea, just saying here's.
Yeah, it would have to be a marketplace thing.
Can you imagine Squiggles minting out if it was 4,000 USD instead of 1 ETH at that time?
No way.
Or Azuki, like,
Dude, or like
20 grand
Pixelmon.
Dutch auction.
Yeah, Pixelmon, like, would you have paid $12,000 for that? Or
It's
like,
actually an interesting
you know,
marketing
3 is a
frame
little
when you
bit
put it
better.
like that. I don't think it would have worked actually.
No way. No
these
way.
mints
in the bull
wouldn't
market,
work.
no way.
These mints would not work.
I would have
because-
never
Yeah.
bought my. I remember I bought a Bored Ape, a couple like 5 Bored Apes, and I went to my girlfriend. She's like, "You spent how much on these stupid monkeys?"
And you were like,
I was like 20 ETH. She was like, "How much is that?" I was like 80 grand. She was like, "You are the dumbest person I have ever met." Those things yielded $1 million a pop, and I rub it in her face every time I talk to her. But neither here nor there. But like if I would have said like 80 G's, like I wasn't looking at it like that at the time. That I think would probably be the caveat. And then also like if Sol tank 30%, like it would be an interesting like variable.
Yeah, because people
to
don't
kind of
really
gauge.
reprice it on the downside
No.
or the upside, which is
But to
good
be
on the
crypto
upside.
native, though,
Yeah.
actually to your point,
Yeah.
because I think it's a little bit contradicting. If you wanted to be crypto native, you'd probably have to denominate it in crypto. Though.
No, so like, you know,
Is this like the catch-22
benefit-
kind
trust
of?
me, the benefits of denominating in like ETH or Sol is not lost on me. Like that is fucking magic, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, it's a double, just like right now we're getting double fucked.
Yeah.
It's a double pump, you
Yeah.
know, when it's denominated in crypto. I just think that it's one of those things where, you know, you like, for example, you know, you said like, would Pixelmon mint out? Like probably not. Like maybe that's a good thing. And
Yeah.
so my only thing is, the more that we get attached to this previous bull run, I think this is the case for crypto too. It's like if we get attached to like, oh, remember when ETH was $4,000 or remember when Sol was like $250, the more that we get attached to that number, the more we're just living in distorted reality. Because the thing, people just act like it's all guaranteed. Like, oh yeah, of course Solana's gonna go back to all-time highs. Of course all these smart contract platforms are gonna go back to all-time highs. It's like, maybe, fuck, I don't know. Because it was really, dude, like ETH's market cap was $800 billion. Solana was a new token. It went to $80 billion. What companies do you know that are getting to those numbers like that quickly? And in reality, like, they're getting to those numbers because they're making a fucking casino and there's a good big product market fit for fucking casino. But the question is like, is that gonna ever happen? Are we going to get to those numbers again? I think we need to stop taking that for granted, because the sooner we do that, the more we're gonna get relief in the short term. But if we're all gonna be operating in this space, acting like numbers are gonna get back to where they were, when we were in peak euphoria, I think we're just setting ourselves up for more disappointment and more failure versus like, swallow the reality pill. We don't know if these numbers, I'll be fucking delighted if everything goes back to all-time highs. Everyone would be. But if we operate from a place of, hey, like, we don't know if this is going to happen, I think we're going to be in a better overall ecosystem. And then, dude, if we want to turn it back to fucking ETH, if ETH starts pumping, it's like people will be down, I think. But I think it's like we got to be a little bit more flexible here. And I don't know if right now, with the markets being so fucked, it's helping anybody that these assets are denominated in their native
It's
crypto.
a catch-22 because it quite literally is a leveraged bet on the coin, right? Like, it's like if because I'm a firm believer that Sol next cycle will be the ADA. Like, I think it's going to, I told you, I was like, how big is your Sol treasury, dude? And we were talking about it and you were like, okay, we won't go down that rabbit hole. But the point of the matter is, it's like, I'm a firm believer Sol's going to the moon. But it's a leveraged bet, right? It's like, but it's an options call. It's either a put or a call, and it's double the pain or double the benefit. So,
which is that something that everyone wants to sign up for?
No, it shouldn't be like that.
Like, do people want? And I know with us, like we're so openly mentioning,
in a bull market, let's denominate an ETH. In the native coin, in a bear market, let's denominate.
I feel like we could have the nuance in the space to do that. I think we should just do that. You know what I mean? Like, Bitcoin halving. All right, marketplaces go back to the fucking native currency. Until then, let's go to USD. It's like, let's get smart with this stuff. Let's get a little DGen OpenSea, Magic Eden. Let's just start denominating USD. Timer on it, Bitcoin halving, turn it back to the fucking native token. But yeah, man, I just don't know if every NFT buyer is signing up for that leverage call. Like, I don't know if they all realize.
They don't really realize it.
And so that's the thing where I'm like, for better experience for my holders, for your holder, for everyone's holders, like, I just wish that there was more optionality or thought process around how we can denominate this stuff.
At least a button, at least a toggle. Like, okay, denominate it in the native, but like, at least be able to be like, okay, USD. Let's see the floor in USD or whatever.
Well, here's what I think would be interesting is if that instead of that toggle being switched to being denominated in USD, have a toggle to still have it be denominated in the native token, but pegged to a dollar value. So as the price of that asset fluctuates, the cost in that asset will change, right? So let's say you peg it to the US dollar value. So it's like, okay, the floor is $600. If ETH pumps, it automatically, you understand what I'm saying? Like,
no, that's really smart.
Dude,
that's really fucking smart.
You had a product at OpenSea over there, champ.
That's actually fucking genius, dude. That's actually fucking.
That's actually really smart.
Yeah, like OpenSea and Magic Eden can just reprice your listing price.
Please.
What you're saying is like OpenSea and Magic Eden would just reprice your listing price at whatever that.
Yeah, you peg it in US dollar, but it's still denominated in the currency. So it's like
that's some galaxy brain shit, bro.
If that was like a toggleable option, do you know what I mean, for projects? And I think what it also would do is sort of open doors to projects who want to be more DGen crypto native, or like, hey, we want to onboard people who don't want to take that extra risk. OpenSea, let me click this button on my collection page. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, anyway. I feel like for us, for Pudgy, denominating USD would be exponentially better for us.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for a brand like Pudgy.
Us too, easily. Yeah. Like, I don't mind looking at that number and being like, okay, a DeGod costs like $5,000, $6,000, or whatever it is right now, and the all-time high was 30-something grand, whatever. But my thing is, like, I'd much rather operate from a place of like, okay, what we work on like drives results to whatever that number is. But like right now, it's just like, it just looks like we're fucking the worst. Every project looks like they're the worst project in the world.
Yeah, Kobe will respond to our stuff, like, because like a lot of crypto whales and NFT whales are like pumping penguins, and then Kobe will respond and be like, "Well, look at the USD chart." And like every time he talks shit, he's just like, "Look at the USD chart. You guys are down bad in USD." I'm like, "Damn, Kobe." Like,
yeah, if we want to say fuck you to all the DeFi guys that don't understand JPEGs, that would be the way. It's like just some dude. That you guys got to clip it. Send that shit to OpenSea Magic Eden because
Yeah, that's great, dude. They should cut you a check for that.
Banger idea. Yeah, yeah.
Farouk, connect me, bro, please.
It would be the only check we're getting in this market.
Yeah.
Dude, I would love that because then we don't have to go to fucking 11 and like split a table 20 ways. But
Dude, they tried to get me to do that last night.
Did you go?
I actually went. I saw Farouk for the dude. That dude has a great head of hair.
dude, the best head of hair. It's
Dude,
crazy.
what the heck is going on? Long live the French, dude. I'm half French, so I'm like when I see him, I was like,
You're also like twice his height. Like you're a very different size human being.
yeah, we are. But he was a swaggy dude. The hair was crazy.
Nice guy.
though.
He's got like he had,
Very
he had
nice
like
guy.
he had like a velvet shirt on last night.
Yeah.
Farouk was dripping. He got the fucking auto lacing artifact shoes
Dude,
yesterday.
insane.
How
You were
I
there,
don't
right?
have those.
Yeah.
I'm a real sneakerhead. That's the thing. So like, I don't know. I'm wearing.
But you've
those
never,
shoes.
I've never seen you with shoes on. Did you know that?
Yeah, I try not to in like the office and stuff. I like to get
Should
comfortable.
should I take mine off?
Dude, go ahead.
These are pieces of shit. Sorry, Kevin. What were you saying?
Oh, well, no, I was just gonna ask Luca something because I always like see people like ask me because like I just like happen to know you. It's like the fact that you've ran multiple 9-figure businesses. Like, what made you want to get into like what made you want to buy an NFT company and like run an NFT business? Is it the love of building or like do you just love pain? A little bit of both.
I'm like a masochist, dude.
Yeah,
like I
exactly.
just like hurt me more. It's a funny question, and you know, to keep it simple, I felt like what I was doing wasn't changing the world. And when looking at the landscape, one, I fell in love with NFTs. Like I really got the bug bad, right? And so I thought to myself, I was an investor in all the projects, and I was looking at what everybody was doing, and I was a firm believer that the output per like how much money I knew all of these top projects had, I was like, what the heck are all of you guys doing? So one, I kind of wanted to prove a point. I wanted to come here as like the martyr or like the savior and kind of just like show people that you don't need much money to perform. And like we bootstrapped this thing up until this point.
Yeah.
Right? Like we came in bought the business with no money in the bank and have performed at what I would like to believe an exponential level and have shown the world that next time you know a project minting for 10, 15, 20 million dollars, you show them Pudgy Penguins and you say, why do you need that money? And if they say because it's to build something, you say, well, look at Luca and look what he did with nothing. You know, one, that was kind of like the first take. Two, I thought there was like a huge gap in the market where everybody was either building like a play to earn game or a metaverse or just like things that I think are awesome and great for the space. But nobody was going after the direction to build a traditional brand that is built in Web3 with IP and NFT technology on the blockchain. And I'm a firm believer that if you want this space to win the way that we all want it to win, you are going to have to invade the hearts and minds of everyday consumers. Like I say this a lot, but I'm a firm believer of this. If you want people to really rally behind NFT technology, somebody, right? Everybody needs to keep doing what they're doing, but somebody needs to meet Disney and Warner and Hasbro and all of these major IP companies at their mark. Because if you can take market share from them, if you can beat them where they currently are, they're going to take all of their capital, all of their resources, all of their content machines and infrastructure, and they're really going to blow this thing out of the water. To me, one of the greatest stories that Web3 has ever told and is yet to be told is how do you create a business that's making $500 million, $600 million, $1 billion a year in real revenue and translating that back to your holder and to your community in a way that's almost like a first edition Pokemon card on steroids, right? Like one that can be monetized, one that can be traded in real time without any of the friction. And like, I'm a firm believer that if we really want hundreds of millions of people, somebody's going to have to create the next Hello Kitty or the next Pokemon or the next one of these brands that kids are going to grow up with and say like, oh my God, I fell in love with this. And oh, this is an NFT. This is a Web3, you know, this is a piece of Web3 technology. Like I'm a firm believer that somebody needs to do that for this space to be at the pinnacle of where we want it to be. And I felt like the Penguins were the best position to really do that, to really target that younger generation, to really target the man and the woman. Doesn't matter your ethnic, you know, background, doesn't matter your gender role, doesn't matter your age. I felt like a Penguin could really touch everybody and it could go anywhere, right? I can build the next Club Penguin. I could build the next great toy brand. I could build the next great children's book or film and TV series. And there were so many things. And I think the last point to that is like growing up, I always wanted to be like a Silicon Valley entrepreneur. Like this is something where Lorenzo and I like really connect. Like ever since I was like a young kid, and I didn't feel like D2C and like e-com and brands as like lucrative and as big as those businesses were. I always felt like one step removed from my goal. And so this was like also the first time where I saw a business where I was like, not only like it leans into the things that I'm really good at, but it also opens me up to this world and like tech and like the valley and like that like I always wanted to be in. And like my superpower is like lacking in this space and it's needed. Like somebody needs to do it, right? Yeah. And so I think everybody has their own respective lane that I think is necessary to grow. But I do think there needs to be a group of projects that trailblaze this direction of trying to be the next mass market brand that appeals in the real world in a way that I think only like this cute and inclusive like IP I think can do. At least that's my opinion.
You know,
Banger.
Club Penguin.
Banger.
He's just thinking to himself, I just know this guy's vibe. I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. He's like, oh, that's a good Twitter clip.
Yeah,
I can tell you. I can just
honestly
see
say
him. I can just see him.
literally
Like,
say.
yo, that's like,
Hey.
No, dude, I love what you're saying about the Pokemon. Like when you connected it back to like how could they trade like first edition Pokemon cards. That was specifically what clicked for me. We've talked about a lot about this IP play, and it's like, dude, okay, that makes a lot of fucking sense now. A lot more like the way you just explained it for the first time for me. Where yeah, like how do you create so much excitement around the IP and so many tertiary and secondary things that are happening around it that like, and the fact that it would be big businesses that would bring in these other big businesses because they'd be like, fuck, how is Luca and this business making so much of money? How do we go get into this space? But yeah, dude, like them trading like the first edition Pokemon card, that's fucking banger, dude. That's
right.
actually,
My goal is before you go into
good.
point,
No, good.
My goal is to make the Pudgy Penguin on the like that Ethereum collection the first edition Pokemon card.
Yes.
So like how that Pokemon card is worth millions of dollars, except this first edition Pokemon card you can license and you can monetize, and you can trade it in real time without any of the friction. No inauthenticity issues, all of the like, you know, using the NFT technology where it's phenomenal. And I think if you can do that, like that is how I see the path of like, $1 million floor. You know, if I can really build out that content, that IP, the way that Pokemon did, it's a tough task, but that's what I signed up for.
Yes.
Then that's the path to Pudgy Penguins being $1 million floor. At least that's how I've looked at it.
No, I love that. Love it.
Yeah. Sorry, something really stuck out to me. You know, Club Penguin shut off their game pretty close to when Luca purchased Pudgy Penguins. Are they playing scared? I don't know. I just want to throw that out there. But now, I mean, I'm just saying.
That statistic is so wrong, dude. Club Penguin shut off their game like 10 years ago.
I was trying to give you credit.
Wasn't it like forever ago?
That's around like the same time.
It's around the same time. It's the same decade.
Yeah, bro.
It is.
I think something suspicious is going on here.
I think so too.
Club Penguin shut down 10 years ago.
Luca bought.
We're buying Club
and then
Penguin.
Luca bought, you know, Pudgy Penguin.
You're buying Club Penguin?
Oh.
Perfect segue because
No,
Kevin
let me help Luca out here. No way we want to buy that piece of shit. Like, bring the price down.
Because now I'm gonna ask 21 to do something for me.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask both of y'all, in the spirit of the podcast, what I do, what Kevin does on Twitter, if we can get from each of you a little bit of alpha, respectively, on your projects. What can Pudgy Penguin holders be excited about, and what can DeGods holders be excited about?
Yeah, no. Well, I think it's a great transition because, you know, when we were talking just now about like the vision for Pudgy Penguins, it's really cool because I respect and I see the path perfectly now with like, you know, what they're gonna do with Pudgy Penguins. But I think our approach with DeGods and Utes is very different, which is what makes me excited and why I think we work well together. Like, if we were both doing the brand IP thing, I think it'd be like, you know, there would be way more competition.
There'd be like a little animosity. I'd be like, all right,
You guys would be giving
there's
each
only
other
so
bad
much I
ideas
can
the whole
tell
time.
them. You know, I love that because it's like we are doing two different things, you know. But like, yeah, I think like some of the alpha I'd be like, yo,
This could have gone two different ways. I'm glad you guys are friends.
Yeah,
So for
it would suck if we weren't.
So for DeGods and for Utes, I'm like, what I think no one can take away from us today is that we just have the strongest NFT communities, and it's not close. I mean, I'm talking about yesterday, we probably advertised our event, you know, with 3-4 tweets. Within the first 20 minutes, you know, the fire marshal came to shut the thing down. Only 250 spots at the location. 1,500 people like RSVP'd, minted a fucking NFT ticket. Like we have a really rabid and strong community, and the reason why is because people in our communities like to talk to each other. You know, it's a very self-sufficient community. People love meeting each other, conversing with each other, building shit with each other. And so when I think about what does DeGods and Utes look like really scaled out, I think what it looks like is we're building a Soho House competitor. And it's not been very clear.
You're telling them now.
Yeah. It's not been very clear to the public on what we're trying to do. But, you know, early days, we launched this thing called a D map. And the D map is essentially like, it's a map where you can just connect with your wallet and show pins. And it's barely 5% of our holder base that's even like used it. And you could see like there is holders, like congregations of holders in every major city around the world. Like pretty much, right? The joke that we have is the only country that doesn't have a DeGod holder is fucking North Korea. And so overall,
that you know.
Yeah. So what we're looking at is how do we build a really strong, intimate, like physical headquarters in every major city? And when you look at NFT technology, I actually think it's built perfectly for that system.
Yeah.
Because you can have yearly memberships and make that a high revenue business. I mean, Soho House just went public a few years ago. I don't know if people know that. They SPAC. So it is a pretty big business to build. And it's really hard to build a competitor because if you try to advertise fucking Soho, like a new Soho House, it kind of makes it lame. Like if you do a billboard for the new Soho House, it's a fucking lame thing. Like you can't advertise it in traditional methods. But because we have such a strong community of people across the internet, you know, we've been testing this in a bunch of different variations. And so I think what it'll look like is 2 models across the board. Then we want to do our first pilot city, probably Los Angeles, early 2023. And then from there, if that goes well, rally the community around, hey, I know you're not in fucking LA, all right? Just relax for a second. Let's iron out how we're going to do this logistically. And let's get it perfect in LA. And then let's start rinse and repeat and start scaling that to major cities. And I want DeGods to have, you know, access to basically every location around the world. And we would expand who can go into these clubs per city with NFTs. So we would do geolocated mints to raise capital per city that we're going to. And I think what it would look like is just a way more fun version of what you have currently. For people that don't know what Soho House is, it's just like, you know, you apply, you have to be super clouded to get in. Once you get in, you know, you go and it's like a nice area where you can go hang out, have meetings, work. Also, there's like a cool bar, hangout spots, whatever it is. And so, you know, overall, that is kind of like what I think the big picture is. And I think we want to do it in 2 formats. So that's the big flagship HQs. But the other thing is that, and you know, I resonated with what you were saying so much earlier, you know, we built DeGods from our fucking apartment and then we scaled out to a house. And for me, I think there's like something magical about this hacker house experience that you get when you literally like live with the people, you know, that you're working on something with. And so there's a lot of interesting infrastructure I think we could build around people renting out houses and like building shit together. And all of this falls under the theme of how do we create magical experiences for our holders? How do we create things that you can't price in US dollars? And making a new best friend, starting a business with someone, you know, connecting and connecting with people on a daily basis. Cause a lot of us like spend our fucking life on the internet. And how do we make that an actually enriching experience? So that's like the pretty high level. I can't go into as much detail as Luca because we're going to put a lot of this into the next roadmap for DeGods, like DeGods Season 3, and that's kind of a big theme of it. But yeah, what I think is exciting is how do we just make this community that is so fucking insane and nobody can understand why, how can we scale that out to create enriching experiences for people every single day and literally create superpowers, you know, for our holders? So I wrap all of this up by saying, and I always answer this, what's the vision for like a DeGod and Utes, and if you're a holder, you know, when your mom asks you, why did you spend $30,000 on that fucking NFT, that JPEG, you pull out an app on your phone and you say, well, look at all the perks that I got. This is all the free shit that they gave me, all the airdrops, all the cool stuff they gave me. These are all the cool people that I met. These are all the seminars I have access to. And you just really bring it back to the practical fucking reason of, hey, like I'm going to spend a lot of money because it's an investment on myself. And that is, I think, the ultimate pinnacle where I think we could take DeGods and Utes is how can we make this the best investment on yourself that you can make? And then that scales up with, honestly, like with floor price, it scales up because, you know, the more expensive it gets, the more you really want to actively participate and meet all the other cool people in that ecosystem. So that's kind of the big picture of what we're building.
I actually really like his approach because it's like there's something baseline about intrinsic value where, you know how he framed it, where it's just basically like, okay, you get this. Like at that point, that unequivocally becomes like the floor on once that's done, like that's like okay, you can look at everything that you get from being in the ecosystem, and obviously there's some like maybe some emotional utilities like community and stuff that you can't like variate. But it's like I pay how much we pay for our Soho House membership a year. Yeah, 2,500. Like, okay, boom, like that's floor plus all of these other things. Like at a minimum, you know, if you build that stack enough, you know, then you've got a natural floor of $10,000. You know what I mean? And dude, just to back his bull thesis and like to really double down, like I know people that have, you know, that do masterminds every year, $100,000 a year masterminds. You know, that goes like Dan Fleshman's mastermind, $100,000 a year. My friends pay that in their heart in a heartbeat, like without even. Now it's more of a finite group, but you build, you have enough of a community in there, then you know your floor can naturally become that. So I actually like this idea.
Is another one that's like really big, and there's like a lot of these, you know, people don't know, but there is this like upper echelon of shit that exists in the world.
Dude, totally.
That is very expensive and premium that like 99% of us don't even know exist.
Yep.
And my thing is the magic of Web3 and crypto is like anyone can get access to this if you have enough money. And the thing is like that is actually very different than the way that it works right now, where it's a lot less transparent what those guidelines are and what those rules are. And so yeah, overall, what excites me the most about this direction is like I just think that it opens us up to the most flexible. Like to me, the community is everything. And if we continue to make the community stronger, it's like, dude, we have crazy brands hitting us up on the regular to do like Web 2 brands, and we'll say no to 99% of it because we want to build the value of like collabing with us to be so fucking insane. And this is how they always do it. How do you build like something that's luxury? How do you build a fucking crazy community? It comes back to like how do you create something that nobody else can tap into? And I think like that just is the most exciting route that I think we could take this and keep bringing value back 100%.
Yeah, and sorry we were laughing mid-thing because we just saw this Syrian mafioso over here just like literally was begging and clawing for a Soho House membership. Yeah. So you know, he would.
Can you imagine our Soho House, bro? We'd have a fucking arcade. It would be like you know, the thing is it's a hacker house to me because there's another.
I like that angle too of the hacker house. Like,
dude,
that I really see that when you talk about
Chewy's
crypto,
coming to a city
it
near
makes sense
you.
to me that there could be a premium hacker house type of environment. It's almost combining. It's combining like there's launch house, but for me it's like the physical mastermind like HQ areas. It's a combination of Soho House and WeWork. Where you know I think when we meet and what we all have in common is we're all fucking like hustlers, but we also like want to build shit that's really cool and big. And I think a lot of these like millennial, you know, built enterprises like WeWork or whatever, it's actually like the opposite. To me, I'm like bullish on cubicles. You know, as an example, like, have you ever been in an open air office? You can't get shit done.
You fucking
like,
nothing.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We're sitting in an open air office. They're pretty effective.
No, but I would argue that it's like you can get stuff done in this environment, but we're transitioning as an overall population to getting a lot of shit done from home. You know, and a lot of stuff done in like more as we went too far in the work privileges, like cushy life, whatever it is. I think there's this like environment of hardcore that we've already created, you know, with DeGods and Youths. Like it's a hardcore community to be a part of. You know, we're chugging fucking beers from shoes. And overall, like I think that environment could be really, really cool to replicate in every major city. And like I don't know, it just feels like there's a market need for that where you can hang out, but also you know when you're working, it's like it's a fucking grind station.
It's just the shoes get smelly, dude. That's
the shoes that you wear every day. You know,
I don't know, dude. I saw you guys wearing that Solana shoe. That Solana shoe was
this shit is about to be like literally like the DeGods. So you're gonna walk in, and so you're just gonna be a fucking warehouse of blank cubicles. Yeah. Frank's like it's fucking hardcore, dude.
And it costs $100,000 a year. No, but yeah, I think there's that for sure, and making it fun too is like just redefining kind of what is possible with physical locations and using NFTs as that. And so like last thing I'll say is, for example, if we want to go to a new city and we want to make it really crazy, the fundraising mechanism actually becomes pretty straightforward. We do a geolocated mint. Let's just say that the first year membership is $5,000. We do 1,000 NFTs, like that's it. You apply, same thing like Utlist, and people pay, you know, $5,000. That's raising $5 million. I mean, we could do a lot with that capital to make a really amazing location. And so when you think about even raising capital for an enterprise like this, it actually becomes a lot more straightforward when you do it with NFTs, and it's a really clear membership that you have, and you're more incentivized to do it because, you know, like you can also sell that membership back.
Yep.
If you want to cancel your fucking Soho House membership, good luck getting the money that you sent them back. You're not getting that. But that is like to me, what I love about these ideas, and similar to what Luca's saying with the first edition Pokemon, what's amazing is it just hits that nerve in your brain where it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, you know, and there's way too much shit in this space that just doesn't make any sense and never passed that test. You know, but if it makes sense, then I think that's already a important factor that we often take for granted. So it's important to me that shit like just makes practical sense.
Well, you can make $5 million on the mint to like set it up, and then you guys sell $10 shoeies, and then you just cover your costs every day like that.
Oh, genius! Yeah, this is why this
shoeies
man's the e-com god, right?
Shoeies and pizza. And
so you just have like a shoey bar in each location.
That's actually that would be really gangster if you did that.
Oh no, I think we want to do it
like you'd have to put like a ceramic like in the shoe, like it would be a cup. It can't be like a nasty dirty shoe.
Yeah, of
like
course.
like what you did at the salon.
You know,
thing.
so I also
but like a ceramic shoe, that's a product. That's a D2C product for you.
No,
bro,
of
Nelk
course,
would pick that up.
Big
Yo,
surprise here.
Nelk,
Luca's looking at products again.
Dude, if Nelk did a full send like ceramic.
So this brings me to the most important part, which is this is like the real degen shit. This is a real degen.
Go crazy
like
with that.
The thing is that I try to stay away from using this word because it has a lot of connotation to it, but I think it's pretty real. Like I do think that to a certain degree, DeGods is like a frat. You know, like and that's the energy that we've created. And,
I would agree.
And want to continue
I agree
to create.
with that. That's
so I think
good
like
terminology.
If instead of you fucking dancing around the campus naked, you're just doing a shoey and that's your hazing. Like, that's a pretty sick hazing in comparison to what people expect from hazing. And so when I think about really the scale of DeGods, and so for season 3, we're going to make a girl version of the DeGods. You'll be able to swap. We'll make a guy and a girl version, same rarity. So you can basically, if you're a girl, you use the girl version. If you're a guy, you use the guy version. And so that's how we're going to take the next version of the artwork. So it really does help scale out the collection because right now it's all guys. But we want to recreate Greek life to a big degree because I think that there is a magic that a lot, especially like wealthy people, like you look back at those college years and it was a period of time that is impossible in current day to recreate as you get older. And whatever baggage that it has, anyone that's been to any normal person that's not a fucking Twitter NPC that went to college, that interacted with frat life or Greek life or whatever it is, there's a lot of like stereotypes of what that looks like. But in reality, what it is, it's a fucking like brotherhood if you're in a frat. It's a social fucking, butterfly type of environment if you're like in any of Greek life and you just meet a ton of people, you're doing a ton of networking, you're getting fucked up and having fun. And I think if we brought that to adults in a classy way, there is an infinite market cap on that, and providing that.
Sorry,
experience.
brother. I love you, but you said classy and chewy, and this is like two same
Bro,
sentences.
He just dropped so much alpha. My mind's just blown.
I had to drop some alpha. He talked like 20 minutes. He's like, by the way, you're gonna be able to switch out for female DeGods anyway. So this is like,
yeah. I get my wires crossed on what's like public or what's not, but yeah, I mean that is the next step, right? For DeGods is how do you get girls in? At the end of the day, it's like how do you get girls in the fucking collection?
Some real alpha.
Guys. And so, how do we solve that problem? We don't want to do 50% guys and 50% girls because, at the end of the day, there's not that as many girls in the space. So the girls always just sit on the floor. So how do we solve that problem? You make 2 versions of every single DeGod. Damn. The guy and the girl version have the same rarity, same traits, but just made in a different way to be, aesthetic. And so, like that's what's coming up. And that I think is going to be a huge scaling opportunity. And I do think Dead Gods, as much as I love them, and people will always be able to swap back even to the Dead Gods, we're bullish on like literally updating our artwork every year. So for both DeGods and Utes, you can expect that we'll be doing art upgrades every single year, but you'll be able to keep the previous iterations. Because I think it's like Fortnite, it's like a new season, and that keeps people excited. And I think there's so much that you could do with that medium that what happens if Twitter launches animated fucking GIFs as your NFTs? That year we could do fucking animated GIFs and be ready to be moving with the times without ever having to dilute the supply of those original fucking 10,000 DeGods, which is the whole meme of it from the day one. Dead Gods, the whole meme that made it super viral was, it was same supply, new art. Because we just changed the fucking art on the original NFT. And that, I think, is like how we continue to drive value back to our holders while still having the freshest PFPs in the game. I think Dead Gods, I love them. And they're a moment in time and they're punk and edgy, but they'll go out of style. Just like everything is going to go out of style at some point. That's how it works in the real world. Like not Ed Hardy's not fucking cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know about that. Don't say that about Ed Hardy. Ed Hardy's not cool anymore.
Dude,
I agree. I agree.
Okay, I love the fact.
I tried to
Luca pulls up his sweater.
No. Ed Hardy's cool. No, Ed Hardy's not
pulls up
cool
his sweater.
anymore.
It's a fucking
Tomorrow you just see like a newspaper read like Luca Netz just bought out Ed Hardy. It's
Dude,
like,
it's actually one that Peter and I have talked about. I actually wanted, after Von Dutch, I wanted to pick up Ed Hardy, and then the company that holds it didn't want to do it.
Yeah,
he's like he has that sentiment. That's the thing.
It can be brought back for sure.
You know, it's part of my bull thesis on a lot of shit in NFTs of like, dude, if they had that moment where they were the shit, like there is a possibility to bring it back with nostalgia, but like it's just not cool. You know, you got to do some work on it to make it cool again. You can't just drop the same Ed Hardy shirts and make them cool. So yeah, overall, I mean, high level, there's a lot to piece, and I haven't gotten to the stage yet where I have the clean fucking 1, 2, 3. But this is the lane that we're working on, and how we want to kind of take the next lane for DeGods and Utes. And then so yeah, DeGods are kind of like frat, sorority, Greek life, and then Utes are going to be college clubs. And I think the other thing with the magic with college clubs is people take it for granted. You look at NFT projects and how hard it is to manage that community and how poorly, honestly, all of us do it. We all know we could be managing our community 100 times better. You know, there is a lane. There's just not a lot of right ways to do it. But when you look at college clubs, those motherfuckers getting $0, and they're organizing it to the point where it becomes people's identity for no financial gain. And it's like, there is something that is really magical about these early years that we spent where you're just forced to do this shit yourself that could be scaled out, I think, in a big way to Web3. So when I think about Utes and all the sub DAOs, there's a lot of mechanics, I won't bore, but we can move on to the next topic, but a lot of mechanics we're working on to make each of these clubs that people are making businesses that people can run within the overall Utes community, so they can build something that they can scale out to customers that are not even within the Utes community itself. And there's already people that are doing crazy shit with esports, financial planning and literacy, like a lot of really interesting nouns are just like getting a fucking grant from their official, a lot of cool stuff. So that's like the two main flagships for IP. And I would love if we never have to launch anything outside of those two IPs ever again. But DeGods, yeah, like that's the lane. And that's why I keep telling people they're sleeping on DeGods season 3, because it's going to be the most ambitious shit we've ever done in our whole life.
I guess people are going to have to wait for a part 2 to hear the Pudgy Alpha, dude.
Yeah, so Pudgy Alpha, I think like our thesis as a company is, how do you build the next great IP brand that the world's ever seen? And how do you translate that back to the original collection? And how do you bring value in making this the first edition Pokemon card? I think a couple verticals that we're tackling is how do you really make the monetization of IP rights seamless? And so I'm a big believer that right now there's a huge problem in NFT where to monetize your NFT, 2 things have to happen. You have to sell it, or you have to receive an airdrop and sell it. And to me, that's a system that's not sustainable long term. And so we've been working on some infrastructure and some tech that we've been working on internally for our own internal processes, but we're going to ship that out to the world where you can basically monetize, your NFT IP with a couple clicks of a button, which I think is going to be relatively revolutionary.
Huge.
A huge part of what we're doing, beyond that from a product side is how do you get, NFT IP into the hands of your nieces and nephews, your sons and daughters, your friends and family. But beyond that, how do you also give them their first digital collectible and their first NFT without them knowing? So people think we're just like launching like a toy, and I'm like, dude, like a toy that's like anybody can make a toy, and like that's like a little low effort. What we wanted to do is like, how do you tie, NFT Web3 technology with the physical toy? Yep. And so all of our toys will come with a customizable digital collectible. The integrations behind that are yet to be seen, and like how that stuff really looks, but it's been absolutely phenomenal. We've been working on it for the last 6 months. And we've got a couple other things in the alpha. He's inspired me to integrate staking in a very clever way that we've kind of went into.
You're welcome, Pudgy.
Lorenzo's like, no.
Hey, we got it. We got it.
We got it. And
you gotta cut it out.
Yeah,
no token.
No token.
Yeah.
And in a way that makes actual sense, and something that we had an existing platform on, and kind of just like integrating it a layer deeper. And I think last but not least, figuring out how, at least from a tech side, how you can really create something that we haven't seen before from like an art standpoint, but I'm not going to go any further. So you also helped spark that idea. We kind of iterated on it a little bit further.
I'm so bullish on Pudgy's guys. Like there's a story I'll tell you from my personal experience. Literally the day we land in Miami, Luca's like, "Hey, come to the office." I'm like, "Okay, sounds cool. I want to see the Pudgy Penguins office." this guy, it's like of Art Basel, you know, everyone's going to parties and all this shit. He collected a group of holders and did like this magical like focus group where he shared a lot of what we were working on. We were all sitting in a fucking circle, and me and my girlfriend Eden, like we were talking about it for hours after of how insane that was, that we literally had a fucking focus group with Pudgy Penguins, you know, in the middle of Art Basel partying and all that stuff. It was a pretty cool experience, and the stuff that he showed in that session, I was just like, holy fuck, like that inspired me. I was like, dude, this is next level.
Dude, your community is your superpower. Like, you have to lean into that. Like, how people are making decisions without like communicating with your community. I think this is like what you and I do best, like out of like everybody in the space. It's like, that's your edge. Yeah. Like, this is not a dictatorship. Like, this is not for you to just go do what you want, when you want, how you want. Like, you've got to lean into this group of holders who have your best interests at heart, and like bounce ideas off of them and like use them to your advantage. They want you to.
Aren't you always blown away by how many smart people there are in the community? Like,
the ideas.
I am blown away. Sometimes ideas are fucking stupid that the community will say, but like every so often there's these beautiful nuggets. Like, no, every so often. If you're in the community, yeah, I'm not saying anything any controversial. You already know this, but like, you know, sometimes there's these beautiful nuggets and these beautiful ideas that are just like, there's no way you would have thought of that. Yeah. And it's all that makes it all worth it. Like, there are some really smart fucking people in the community. It's pretty incredible. Yeah,
dude,
holy shit.
That's hard-nosed, investigative NFT journalism.
We got him. We got him. I think that was my favorite episode.
Unbelievable, dude.
Yeah.
I fucking love these two guys, and it's funny because we sit here and we have very casual conversation, but there's so much intellectual capital in this room. An entrepreneurial experience, that's what I love about doing these episodes. We can sit here and it's fun, but like, I know that as a consumer, I will rewatch these episodes and be like, oh, I'll write that down. You know, like Patrick is like, write that down. It's incredible stuff, guys. And honestly, just like, thank you for coming on again.
Yeah,
I wish this was just like up only and we could do it every week with these four.
Yeah, do it for 4 hours.
We're like the All-In podcast.
Yeah, you guys have been fucking incredible.
I'm David Sachs, if this is All-In podcast. Who are you? If this is All-In.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I got it. Yeah. Oh, Chamath, I guess. Yeah.
He's David Freeberg.
I probably, yeah.
No, I feel like it might be Galiganakis, actually. And you're Friedberg. I'm Sachs. I don't care.
Rap us, bro. Rap us.
Love it.
This has been NGMI. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Luca Netz and Frank DeGods, and of course, my lovely, sexy co-host, Champ.
Thanks, guys. Peace.